Yet there is some discussion and debate, particularly between Reformed theologians and scholars that belong to what is normally called the New Perspective on Paul, who argue about this issue of how we receive righteousness in Christ. And on the one hand, the Reformed tradition emphasizes imputation, that Christ's righteousness is taken from him and put on us, if you like. And on the other side, there is the idea that because we have union with Christ, we share in his righteousness, we are justified by our union, and therefore the idea of imputation is unnecessary. I want to say, actually, I think that's a false dichotomy, and I don't want to choose between the two. Absolutely, Paul's language points us to union with Christ. That is how we receive righteousness. That is how we are justified. We die with Christ. We're raised with Christ. It's by dying and rising that one is justified. That's how Jesus himself is vindicated, and we share in that vindication, which is our righteousness, our justification. So no question, that's what the text says. Does the text talk about imputation? Well, not directly, and I think scholars, New Testament scholars, have rightly pointed out that it's actually quite difficult from the text to reconstruct a doctrine of imputation from Paul. I mean, there are bits and pieces of it, like from 2 Corinthians 5 and Romans chapter 4 and elsewhere, but it's not clear and it's not all in one place. However, Richard Gaffin helpfully points out that when the Reformers, Luther and Calvin, talked about imputation, they didn't speak of it as a kind of crass, abstract quantity that was like a transfer from one bank account to another, or you take righteousness off Christ and put it over here and dump it on the believer. No, Luther and Calvin both emphasized that our righteousness is by union with Christ. They both talked about that. And yet the category of imputation was useful for them in their context to indicate that it's entirely alien to us. It's not, the righteousness is not our own at all. But what is alien, the point is, becomes non-alien once we are united with Christ. What is outside us becomes in us because we are in Christ. And so that idea of imputation is still, I think, useful to indicate that our righteousness in the first instance does not belong to us, it's entirely Christ's. But then we also want to say, it's not as though he gives up his righteousness and throws it over to us or something like that, but we share in his righteousness by our union with him.